Whenever Beauty Bay drops new palettes, I get immediately excited. I think the Beauty Bay formulation is one of the best on the market, and they are so fucking affordable. It does not match with my mindset of luxury and a more high-end beauty that this is not priced like this. These 20 pan palette formats that Beauty Bay does are always limited edition. I want to say this right away. So this Celestial Charms palette is limited edition, and for the very first time we have a all shimmer palette. This is the 9 pan mini charms, and this is limited edition too. So I don't know how I feel about this, because I think, especially with this one, little spoiler here, Beauty Bay did something fucking great, and I am already sad that this is a limited edition. So right before we head into the looks, I just want to tell you that if you want to get one of these palettes, do this. You will not regret that. The links for the collection and all is down below, so you can shop it directly on Beauty Bay, and I make a small commission when you use my links, but you can of course just go to the Beauty Bay website directly. So the Celestial Charms collection is, as said, the limited fall edition. I don't think that they do then a separate like Christmas collection. I think they always do just this. And these 20 pan palettes, they come out like twice, maybe 3 times a year. Other than their big palettes, they come in different sizes, like the regular ones with the monochromatic styles. They always have a 9 pan 16 and a 30 pan version. With the special, you always have just the 20 pan version, and as said, this year for the very first time, a 9 pan one. The Celestial Charms has a beautiful purple jewel toned, very dark and deep color story. The look that you see on my look here today is the 4th look that I created for you, so you guessed it, you will see 4 looks in this video. Let's talk about swatches of this palette, and I do want to say though that these shadows, or in general Beauty Bay, they swatch horrible. The mattes, I had to build up 3 layers at some point to get a somewhat even application. But as always, swatching does not tell the whole story, it's just a part of it, and it's just helping to see how does it look then with your skin shining through, because as always, what you see in the pan is not what translates on your skin because of color theory. The shimmers are very, very nice. The Beauty Bay shimmers in general, so just to make that clear, you cannot compare them with like regular metallics that will punch you in the face. I think the Beauty Bay shimmers are definitely softer in some kind, but when you just apply them with a bit of patience and maybe even a bit of build up, you can get a really, really nice effect. I do want to point out though that some of these in here have a holographic or holochrome overspray that will not apply on the lid. The only holochromy shade that you have is the shade Galaxy. Now let's talk about the 9 pan palette. This is for the very first time an all shimmer one, and these are not regular shimmers, these are ethereal, transparent shimmers. They all have a somewhat translucent base, and then the pigment and the sparkle and the shimmer, and oh my god, they look so freaking nice. I mean, look at the swatches, look at the video that I show you here. They are just so magic looking, and I incorporated at least one of these in each look that you will see today. I also have here a comparison between the shimmers of the Celestial Charms on top and the mini charms on the bottom, just to show you that these are definitely not the same. There are maybe some similarities in these golden shades, like let me look up how they're called. There is this gold shade Stardust in the first row of the Celestial Charms one, and then Crescent in the last row. They might look a bit similar to the shades, oh my god, let me count them, Infinity and Aurora. These are shades 3 and 4 in the mini charms. But the formulation is very, very different. So the Celestial Charms is more like color base metallics, and the mini charms is ethereal, translucent base. Glitters, I would even say. I know that people have been on the hunt for a dupe of the Izamaya Industrial 2 palette. Let's take a really quick close look here inside. It's so beautiful. By the way, when you see the video, I think there are new products from Izamaya, and I'm very excited. But I just want to show you because I feel like people are hoping for a dupe by Beauty Bay, especially with Industrial 2, since these are also these ethereal shimmers. And just to hold them up side by side, I think you have some similarities in the vibe, but not in the color. So if you are just looking for something vibing in the way of the Industrial 2, maybe the mini charms will satisfy that for you. But now, enough of that intro, let's head over to the 4 looks and then to my final review. I can already tell you that this is a very challenging palette, I think, for a lot of people, since this is all dark, 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 and not so many blending or transition shades aside from Lunar. So I will do reverse eye look making basically. So I start with dark and then I try to tone down with Lunar and we see how it goes. And well, what do I want to do for the first look? I want to do something sultry, something dark, something vampy. So you know what? I start with Oracle. And I apply Oracle directly in my crease. Whatever's left on the brush, I already blend out into the transition area, but not too high up because I want to go in with Lunar too. This is a very, very pigmented shade. So I take a more fluffy brush and now go into Lunar. I apply this directly on that line to just soften the look. So I now go into the shade Orion, and that one I apply on the outer third of the lid first, and whatever is left I then bring up in the crease and blend it inwards. And then I go into Cassiopeia. In German it's Cassiopeia, so I guess it's Cassiopeia in English. I don't know. But that one I start to blend on the inner crease part and bring that inwards. I applied some glitter glue and now I used the shade Solstice. This looks like one of those shades that is mainly matte and has just some shimmer specks, but more than the regular ones that you know maybe from ABH does this a lot. And that I tap here on the outer third or outer half. Definitely more matte than anything else. The shimmer specks are very, very subtle in there. So I use one of the smaller brushes and I just try to blend that out a bit. That's the risk when I do the looks before I prepare the swatches. So I'm basically going in very blind, but I think what I wanted to achieve is what I can get with Stellar. So, what will I do? You know what? I tap into Aura. Now we'll use Stellar in another look. And that one I apply now on the rest of the lid. And where they both meet, I basically just tap out Aura so that there is still some of that darker shade Solstice left, but it goes smooth into that shade. For the waterline, I'm using the Colourpop BFF Cream Liner. I'm so sick of saying this. In Amethyst Hour. And I line my lower waterline with that. I now tap into Orion again and smudge this on half of the lower lash line. And then I tap into Cassiopeia and smudge that on the rest and on top of Orion. I just had to look up. For the inner corner highlight, I'm going into the Mini Charms palette. To fit the purple pink vibe, I go into that one. This is Aurora. And that one I apply as inner corner, you know it. Bring it a bit inwards and a bit on the lower lash line. I also bring it a bit onto the lid, just as topper shade, but not all the way in. I have one last step missing, and that's brow bone highlight, since this Mini Charms offers so many beautiful translucent shiny shades. I want to incorporate that too, so I'm using the shade up here. This is Milky Way, and I just apply this as my brow bone highlight. This shifts golden and pink, and well, it matches the look. And here you have the first look ready. I really like this. It's loud, it is smoky, it's vampy, it's sultry. I mean, I could have added some black, and I just wish that I would have added a different shimmer, because the Solstice shade, it's just a sequin shade, you know, the mattes with the shimmers throughout. But as said, I haven't swatched the palette by the time that I'm filming these looks, so that's the risk in that case. Yeah, for the lips, I applied the Lisa Eldridge Sculpt and Shade Lip Pencil in 0N. This is, it's so often in use, I am afraid that I will use this up very quick. And then I topped it off with the Dramo Project Moon lip color in the shade Moonlight. It's a liquid, moussey textured lipstick. Now let's head over to look number 2. Look number 2, I start with the shade Prophecy up here. And that one I apply in the crease and transition area. Next up I tap into Zodiac. And that one I apply directly in the crease. And I also applied a tad bit here on the outer dot. Not the complete outer third. I applied my glitter glue and now I go into Comet. And that one I apply now all over the lid. And now I also go into Stardust, and that one I tap only in the center. To match the vibe on the lid, I'm using the ColourPop liner in Two Can Do It, because it is a yellow, a gold yellow with well, mainly yellow gold. I tap into Prophecy and use this to blend this along the lash line. And then I go into Andromeda, place this on top. There is definitely a bit of dark shadow missing, so I go into Omen and I use this directly on that lash base and a bit on the upper lash base as like a framing element. So I want to test something. I go into Orb first and apply this as inner corner highlight. It's a very, very subtle shimmer with the slightest pink reflection actually. So I now go into the shade of the mini charms. This is called Infinity, and I apply this on top. And here we have the second finished look. For the lips, I applied the Natasha Denona My Dream lip liner, and I topped it off with the new Tom Ford gloss in the shade Celestia from that holiday collection. The whole look, by the way, was inspired by a reel that Beauty Bay uploaded in my timeline yesterday for you like a week ago. And it was the girl who was doing this basically with this darker crease and then this orange. And I even had to comment because, first of all, that look nice if you like that style, but like the pigment was not in the room with us, and I even commented and said, why did you choose to show this video, because this video does by no means show what this palette can. So I thought I recreated but in my style, and I really like that look. So let's head over now to look number 3. So today I'm starting with Lunar, weird, and apply this as base color first. Next up I go into Lura, but with a very light hand. And I apply this in the crease. I now tap into Equinox. And that one I pack on the outer third. And then I use the side of the brush to blend it inwards in the crease. I now go into Galaxy and apply this on the outer half of the lid. And then I take Mystique from the mini charms and apply this on the rest of the lid. For the waterline, I'm using the ColourPop liner in the shade Plum Smash and line the waterline with that. Then I tap back into Equinox and blend this across the lower lash line. And then I go into Prophecy and use this on top and underneath for a smokier look. I go into the shade Crescent and apply this as my inner corner highlight. And here we have now look number 4. On the lips, I again used the new Tom Ford gloss in Celestial. I absolutely adore this, although it's a very, very subtle sheen effect, but I just love a sparkly gloss. For a little moment, I thought this look is very similar to look number 1, so I had to compare it because I already posted it on Instagram, but it definitely isn't. Look number 1 was way darker, way more purple. This one here is purple too, but it's softer, it's more lilac-y, and I absolutely adore this. So let's head now over to the last look of this video. For the last look of this video, I will start with Prophecy. And that one I apply directly in the crease and blend it up towards the brow in the transition area. I then go into Zodiac and apply this directly in the crease. And then I went back into Prophecy and I rebuilt that shade on that line between the crease and that transition area. I applied my glitter glue and now I go into the shade Astral. And I apply this all over the lid. And I take the same brush I used that darker shade with and just diffuse the shimmer. Zodiac, I just forgot the name in those 2 minutes. For liner, I'm using the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal liner today in the shade Surfside because I think that matches that eye look. And since I think on the upper lash line there is now the white gap of the tight line, I will apply it there first. And then I apply it also on the lower waterline. I tap again into Zodiac and smudge this across the lash line. And I also go into Prophecy, blend that slightly lower to create basically the same blend as on the upper lid. For inner corner highlight, I go into the mini charms again and I'm using the center shade this time. This is Cosmic, and apply this as inner corner highlight. What a surprise. Also using another shade from this mini charms for my brow bone highlight, I tap into this one, Aurora. And I just apply this on the brow bone. And here we have now the last finished look. On the lips, I went with no lip liner and I applied the new YSL, oh god, the Candy Glow in the shade 6B. So if you are familiar with the Beauty Bay formulation of their regular palettes and of these palettes, you will definitely not be disappointed. This is a formulation that just works. What I want to point out though is that it is overall very, very dark. You can apply these light when you just use a very, very light hand. So to be honest, I think this palette definitely needs more like advanced superpowers in applying it lightly than in building up color, because building up color, that works like nobody's business. Like what build up? You don't need to build them up. They just apply and boom. I think I said it in other Beauty Bay videos already that I personally think that the best way to work with these Beauty Bay shadows is actually to start with the darkest color of your look and then build it up in a reverse motion, like dark to light instead of light to dark. I did light to dark in this video and it worked, definitely. In the first look, I think I did Lunar as a last lightning step to kind of smooth some blends, but it works either way. But I think easier it is to work from dark to light with this formulation. Is this color story now in the Celestial Charms something super innovative, something super new, and something super special? Absolutely not. It is a purple color story. It's a dark purple color story. What makes this palette very special, in my opinion, is the different hues of purple, because they might look very similar when you just look at the palette and be like, yeah, why do I have Lyra, Equinox, and Andromeda? It's like the same color, or Orion, Oracle, and Cassiopeia. It's like a very, very similar color, but they are different in their tones, in their undertones, and definitely in their light to dark ratio. Personally, I enjoy the fact that you have these in here, and I think they are different enough on the eye when you apply them. What I'm not a fan of is the shade Solstice, because I do not like these shades that have a matte base and then these shimmer particles throughout. They're like not shimmers, not metallics, not like translucents. They're not matte. They're just this weird mushy thing in between, and I'm not a fan of these in either brand. It doesn't matter if it's Beauty Bay or ABH who loves to do this. My favorite shades of this palette are definitely Astral and Galaxy, although I have to admit that Astral today here on this look It creased a lot. Although I have glitter glue underneath, I had to smooth out it a bit, and I'm pretty sure that before I take the close-up shots, I have to smooth it out again because this is a bit different in formulation than the others. I felt it also when swatching. This is a shadow that has a black base, and then you have these pigments creamed in kind of. So it is creamier than the others, which makes it more like creasable. Personally, I don't mind that because maybe this is a very controversial opinion here, but every eyeshadow creases. And I'm honest with you, I think this hunt for zero creasing on the eyes is just impossible as soon as you have a moving lid. It just does not work like that. So I don't mind with a bit of creasing because when I now just look at it, I see these little lines. But usually I don't walk around like this. I walk around like this, and I even have glasses on top. So, and nobody is just so up close to me that they'd be like, I see there a little creasing going on your lid, you filthy little. That goes a bit too far, but you know what I mean. I think this is a level of creasing that I can live with. Of course, in a perfect world, the eyeshadow would look like this the whole day, but let's be honest, it never does, no matter what primer you use, no matter what glitter glue you use. Galaxy is a beautiful holochrome shadow without having this holochrome formula. If you know what I mean with that, a lot of indie brands that do holographic or holochrome shadows, they tend to have a lot of these holochrome pigments falling out of the look. This does not do this. I absolutely enjoy this. The rest of the shimmers in here are definitely the typical Beauty Bay shimmer formulation, and I do want to point out that I'm not a fan of the fact that Aura, Stellar, and Cosmos have a holographic overspray. That just goes away as soon as you apply them. The most useless shade in this palette, in my opinion, is Orb, because this is just so nothing. It's again like this satin in between, but I don't like the way this is, and I don't need that. I would much rather have had a gray color in there instead of this. But I think the star of this collection is definitely the Mini Charms palette, because for the very first time in the Beauty Bay history, we have an all shimmer palette, a 9-pan all shimmer palette, and we have a new formulation. This is different. This is different to the shimmers that you have in the big Celestial Charms. These are thinner. They all have translucent bases. These are all more ethereal shadows that just shine the best in low light, to be honest. They also feel a bit like moist and creamy, borderline as if they are cream shadows, but they are not. Some of these, I think, have a bit too much binding component in them, like the one in the center, Cosmic. It's just very squishy, but not Odin's Eye squishy. And before you ask, no, the Mini Charms formulation is not like the formulation of the shimmers that we had in Metamorphic last year. Honestly, I think Beauty Bay did a great collection. I have nothing to like really criticize about this and say, oh, don't buy this, you will regret that. I definitely don't think so. And I want to point out my beautiful friend Danielle from Fedora Beauty, when she saw this palette, we had a talk and she said immediately she's not going to pick this up because this reminds her so much of this. And this is the Fall Romance from ABH that came out last year for fall. Oh, and since that we haven't gotten a new in this format. Well, maybe they burnt themselves a lot, but Fall Romance, if you remember, I even did a video with that. I did 5 looks and it was a disaster. That palette was so bad. Every drugstore brand is better than the Fall Romance quality. It was such a letdown. But the color story was just insanely pretty with these deep hues, deep purples, these just, I don't know, like jewel tones. And I really love that, but as said, the formula was so bad. I passed it on to Danielle and she then decluttered it, I think, because it's just unusable, this palette. If you are burned from Fall Romance by ABH, like we were, but you wanted to have this jewel-toned color story, honestly, the Celestial Charms did that, but 1,000 times better. and more affordable. So what do you think about this palette? Did you pick this up? Are you planning to pick it up? Let me please know down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any cool videos. LMS just right around the corner and it's going to be very exciting. Thank you so much, and I can see you in the next one.